I have a Xiaomi Mi CC9 Pro or the Mi Note 10 in my possession. I have a Redmi K20 Pro. I wanted to see how the main and ultra-wide sensors could compete on these two devices. One of them is running Xiaomi EU, one of them is completely stock. I didn't really test the telephoto camera on the K20 Pro since it only uses the telephoto camera sometimes in good light, and the quality of it is pretty mediocre. I did test the ultrawide on the Mi CC9 Pro versus the ultrawide on the K20 Pro because the K20 Pro has a decent ultrawide camera, and these are my conclusions. Before we all hop over on the computer and compare images, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos about the Mi CC9 Pro or the K20 Pro. And let's just hop over to the computer. I have alternated the placement of each photo in this comparison just because I want you to look at which photo you like more before deciding on it. Now, this first image that we have, I have the Redmi K20 Pro and the Mi CC9 Pro. Here, I had a limited amount of daylight, and it looks like we had motion blur in the image, whereas the Redmi K20 Pro did a better job of isolating that image. Now, it's worth noting that on the Redmi K20 Pro, I do have Xiaomi EU installed, and that does give me some variety of options for the photo capture mode in HDR. There's an HDR Pro and there's an HDR Live, whereas on the Mi Note 10, automatic HDR, I guess you would say. Here, if we zoom in more, you guys can see that I'm actually getting more motion blur with the Mi CC9 Pro, even though both of these images are exactly the same. I think some of this is just coming down to the OIS versus the camera having to get its own fast shutter speed naturally. And also there is a fair amount of processing that we can see going on here after the fact between the two of them. And we can see that like just right out of the camera, the K20 Pro, it looks better. But if we look at the skies, we still have more detail left in the skies for a lot of these shots. Let's go to some more motion blurry images. And like I said before, I think a lot of this has to do with the post-processing and the fact that the K20 Pro does have the ability to use that different HDR mode and better post-processing. Here we have a longer shutter speed with the Mi CC9 Pro than we did with the K20 Pro. I probably use this with night mode, and it's the Mi CC9 Pro just using the OIS to get the faster shutter speed. Now I wanted to compare the different cameras and the different focal lengths on some of these. And here we have the 2x optical zoom versus the 5x optical zoom. And the man fishing was pretty far away when I took this picture. And we have considerably more detail with the Mi 10 than we do with the Mi Note 10 than we do with the K20 Pro. Now, if we edited the Mi CC9 Pro or the Mi Note 10 images, Mi Note 10 has a long way to go in regards to like software optimization. One thing I kind of want to just go back to here, the extra resolution that we have does make for sharper images. And if we zoom out on this one, we do have just way more information left in the sky on the Mi Note 10. And that's somewhere that I think we're going to continue to see this trend of just having more information to work with a lot of these images. And right here, I took both of these images side by side, and just right away, like we have a more edited and more cell phone looking picture from the K20 Pro. Whereas the colors, the way everything is rendered, even in this like very flat looking image, I know that we have a lot of detail left in this image to extract information out of. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. The bricks and stuff like that here. And I'm pretty happy with what we have out of the Mi CC9 Pro. Here was a comparison of the wide angle. And after taking this image and looking at these images side by side, there's just such a difference between these two cameras, in between like the amount of information that these cameras can capture, because the images coming from the K20 Pro in the Pro HDR mode are giving me a very heavily edited look, and that's why it seems like they're retaining a lot of detail. The images coming out of the Mi CC9 Pro, on the other hand, do not look like this, and they have a competing amount of detail. Especially if we look over in the skies and stuff like that, we have a much better gradation, whereas with the K20 Pro, it just kind of turns the sky all blue, and we kind of lose some of the shades of turquoise that we have. Now, going into some more low light stuff, I'll do a separate low light video on this at another time, but comparing these two images just based on the amount of information we have left on the sky, we can tell that we have an increased amount of dynamic range. Let's go ahead and let's look in seeing how sharp these are. We can see a perfectly sharp image with the Mi Note 10 because of the OIS. It does make a difference in low light, especially with doing night mode stuff. Now, this is one I think the camera was dirty because we have some odd smudging on it. We can still look for some detail in the image. I wanted to see how it was going to deal with the color and these yellow lights. The white balance on the Mi CC9 Pro, significantly better. It does a better job of giving us a more accurate depiction of what these colors look like, although it is still quite yellow, whereas you could have just white balanced this correctly. Let's look at the detail with this shot, and we see we have some motion blur. If we move in, we have some smoothing, but that's at almost 200%, which you're never going to be looking at it this close, and I'm looking at these on a 4K monitor. I wanted to see what the dynamic range was in high contrast environments, so I got some images like this. Now, this is one where we really have to start to look into the details if we want to see the differences between these two devices. Now, if we look into these two scooters, we have a ton of detail left in this entire area of it, whereas this one, we don't really. If we look at the highlights of it though, we have a lot of highlight like detail preserved with the K20 Pro, but it's giving us a very, very artificial and kind of compressed look would be the best way for me to describe it, because a lot of it has to do with the in-camera editing, whereas we have considerably more detail on the Mi Note 10. And if we look off into the distance, the extra resolution is going to show more detail in the signs and less smoothing. Last but not least, this was one image I kind of just wanted to show off. I was really happy with how this looked. And both of these cameras in this instance look pretty good from afar. It's not until we really zoom in now, both of these images, that we're beginning to see a tangible difference, right, with this. Not only is the resolution giving us like a more detailed image, we're having less motion blur on the people that are frozen because it's having a shorter overall shutter speed. Now I want to show you guys a couple of random images I took recently in ultra low light with the K20 Pro using night mode, the Google camera night mode. And even with the Google camera night mode that we have on the K20 Pro and the software tweaks, it just cannot compete with this device, even without any of the special Google optimization. As you guys can see, incredible amounts of detail. Color rendition is amazing. And this is really Xiaomi's kind of initial crack, and the device will still be getting software updates moving forward. Zooming in here, I mean, it was super windy, but like it's still a cool image. And I mean, this situation was dark, and it was able to pick out a ton of detail and still gather a ton of information. Here is my friend's bike, and let's just go and kind of pixel peep. Again, like very little motion blur. We have really, really good amounts of detail left in the background. In the foreground with the motorcycle, I mean, we can see the horn, we can see tubes and stuff like that running. We can see the pattern of the tires. It's really, really incredible what we're getting out of this device, even after like one or two like revisions of firmware. Something I wanted to do was just see how it would deal with this purple light on this bike. And I am really, really happy overall with the Mi Note 10's camera. I think that it's going to be giving us a really good platform for developers to tweak and kind of make improvements to in regards to software, because right now, in regards to all smartphone cameras, we're getting more information off of the sensor of the Mi CC9 Pro, Mi Note 10, than we are on most other smartphone cameras right now. And I feel like Xiaomi has only begun to scratch the surface in regards to giving us a more usable and a better overall smartphone camera experience with this device. Okay, let's take it back. The Mi CC9 Pro has a pretty tangibly better camera than the K20 Pro. Although, to be honest with you guys, I think that software plays a big part in it, and I think we could be getting a lot more out of the camera hardware on the Mi Note 10 with like more refinements in hardware and possibly Gcam. But overall, there is definitely a tangible difference between the 100 megapixel sensor and the 48 megapixel Sony sensor on the K20 Pro. I don't think it's a colossal difference, and really, at least to me, where the Mi Note 10 does have a big difference is the fact that it does have OIS, that the ultra-wide camera on it is tangibly better, and that the other focal lengths, being the macro, the telephoto, and then the ultra telephoto camera, are like significantly better. And I think that if you are a creator like myself that is used to working with like DSLRs and lenses, having such a capable multi-camera setup in a device in your pocket does allow for more creative freedom. One thing that did kind of disappoint me through the use of my Mi Note 10 has been the fact that unless you're in good light, the macro camera definitely struggles. So it does make it a little bit hard to use, especially because you can use the main 100 megapixel sensor, take a 100 megapixel file, crop in a lot, and still have the 2 megapixels of resolution. If you guys want to see more videos on this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I am going to be working on a couple other videos regarding the Mi Note 10 and the K20 Pro, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to de-bloat and eventually run a different custom ROM on the Mi CC9 Pro.